With Scream 5 looming on the horizon, I thought this would be a prime opportunity to discuss what we should expect and some things I want to see from the 5th installment of this franchise. Hello everybody, my name is Crawford, and when I'm not binge watching horror movies, I'm here on YouTube reviewing them. And if watching a stranger talk about movies on the internet is your thing, please consider slashing that subscribe button and slashing that like button. Now with the intro stuff out of the way, let's get into what we should expect from Scream 5, or Scream 2022.
Hello, Sydney.
First off, we can expect this movie not to be called Scream 5. They will be following the same footsteps as Halloween 2018, entitling it Scream, with no numbers attached to it at all. It's going to be the same title as the original. My interpretation of it is, by calling it Scream, they're going into the soft reboot route, similar to what they try to do in Scream 4, gathering a bunch of new, younger cast of characters so that the legacy characters, Sydney, Gale, and Dewey, can metaphorically pass the torch on to a new group. Because let's face it, I don't expect all of our legacy characters to survive this film. In order to keep the audience on their toes, we need some stakes to be added, whether that means killing off some of our beloved characters or subverting our expectations in some other form is something that the Scream franchise desperately needs. I feel as if the days of having a bunch of numbered sequels are pretty much over. The days of seeing titles like Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, or Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Those days are pretty much done. There's generally a negative perception that comes along with having numbered sequels. Some people will complain like, oh man, there goes another sequel in this franchise. How many sequels are they gonna make? Studios don't want people to think like that before they walk into their movie. Even though it might be dumb that we're gonna get 2 movies in the same franchise called Scream, it might be a little confusing. It's something that fans are just gonna have to get used to. This film will be designed in a way where new people who haven't seen the previous films can just jump right into this movie and not be confused as to what's going on in the timeline. I expect Scream 2022 to be a repackaged version of the original Scream, drawing parallels while also taking the franchise in a new direction, very similar to what Disney did in Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens. In addition, I don't expect leaks to come out before the film releases. It's been reported by many media outlets that there are multiple versions of the script that have been passed around, with a number of different endings, and they also shot several endings so the actors involved have no idea as to which ending is in fact the legit one. They don't want a repeat of what happened with the Scream 2 script, where apparently the script for that film leaked online back in the late 90s, and they had to rewrite a majority of the screenplay, including the ending. The writers, directors, and producers are keeping this film as airtight as possible to make sure that does not happen again. Also, I expect this film to up the gore factor. The first 3 films kept the violence pretty tame for the most part, while Scream 4 on the other hand had surprisingly a lot of blood and guts. A main knock I have about the Scream movies is that they lack creative kills that stand out.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
Besides Tatum being crushed by a garage door, most of the kills in these movies are pretty much strictly knife stabs, and I'm kind of bored of it at this point. But the directors who are behind Ready or Not are taking over for this one, so it gives me some hope that we're going to see some more violent carnage. For another expectation, I believe they're going to tone down the meta aspect in this film. Now, it won't completely go away. Being meta is such a huge staple in the DNA of what makes these movies unique and different compared to other horror films in the genre. By having that quippy self-awareness and humorous approach to storytelling, it was very refreshing to see the horror genre through a meta perspective during a time when slashers were on their last legs. While it was the breath of fresh air the slasher genre needed in 1996, over the years, the whole being meta craze has gotten kinda old and repetitive for me. At certain points in this franchise, they just start to beat you over the head with it, most notably in Scream 3, where they went a little too far with the celebrity cameos and overly inclusive stab movies. In my opinion, the more subtle the meta we have in Scream 2022, the better the film will be. Furthermore, I couldn't imagine a Scream movie without some Easter eggs and homages to classic horror films such as Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Prom Night. You know Kevin Williamson will display those Easter eggs throughout the runtime of this film. Now let's move on to some aspects about this film that I want to see and some aspects that I'm very curious about. I want to see Sydney lured back in the woods Woodsboro in a very creative way. I don't want Ghostface to call her up and be like, "Hey Sid, I'm out here killing again, come out to Woodsboro," and then she catches the next flight to Woodsboro. She needs to have a compelling reason to return back to a town that caused her so much pain. Now, this is just me speculating, but I think Dewey in fact might die in this movie, and that is the reason why Sydney returns to Woodsboro. I think that's the most logical assumption in my opinion. I just hope they kill off any of the legacy characters in a very noble way that has some meaning behind it. Now, it can't be cheap or really stupid, or else you're gonna make the fans really angry. Let's say if Dewey died, he needs to die in like the most noble way possible. He needs to die like saving Gale or saving someone, something along those lines. If that does in fact happen, I would love to see Sydney and Gale team up, because their screen time together throughout the franchise is fairly short. Their character's emotional connection to Dewey is so strong. If they teamed up to fight Ghostface would have a very hard time defending against these two very strong characters. If they do in fact kill off some legacy characters, I hope that fans do not knock the film down for it, because I know how some fans are. They're very protective of the characters that have been a part of their lives for so long, but stories do have to end eventually. Characters' journeys eventually conclude. Do you really want to see Sydney, Gale, and Dewey continue to fight Ghostface when they're in their 50s? Change is okay, change is good. I'm all for this franchise going in a brand new direction. I think it's about time now. But before they go into a new direction, I really want to see a developed relationship with Sydney and the new cast of characters that are being introduced. I hope that the new characters such as the Carpenter sisters and Wes Hicks create a bond that is very heartwarming and makes us feel connected to them. In addition, I want to see a really savvy, menacing, snarky Ghostface. I would love to hear some new lines that just become instant classics, because I feel like besides the original, I can't really quote Ghostface too much. In the sequels, he doesn't really have any like really cool lines or anything. They're all just kind of basic. The original really set the bar so high with his classic lines, it's kind of hard to, get to that level. I just want a lot of on-screen time dedicated to the Ghostface killer, whether that's Ghostface killing people or sneaking around in the background or just having Ghostface on the phone. I want Ghostface to be a constant presence in this film. I'm also extremely curious how they're going to tackle technology in this film, because I don't know about you, but I don't have a landline. I don't have a giant cinder block cellular phone with no caller ID. I'm very interested how Ghostface is going to make calls with people in a very tech-savvy generation, where their main way to communicate with one another is through text messages or DMing one another. I don't know about y'all, but I never answer calls from numbers I do not recognize. I wonder if that's going to be an obstacle that might hinder the film a little bit. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover about Scream 2022. What are you guys expecting from this movie? Are you guys excited? Are you not excited? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you beautiful people in the next video. Peace.